This is the fourth and final episode in the series of baseline videos I collected of Joshua trees in the American Southwest. Now, all of these videos I filmed in April of 2017. The first one I filmed in the Palmdale, California area north of Los Angeles. This was followed by a visit to the richest Joshua tree woodland that exists today. It's in the Mojave National Preserve. That resulted in two videos, one for Palmdale and one for the Mojave Preserve. Here's an aerial view of the Palmdale location, looking northward from LA. Here's an aerial view of the Mojave location, showing the two interstates with Barstow to the far left. See Las Vegas and Lake Mead at the far right. Here's a closer look at the remote location I videoed in the Mojave National Preserve. Next, we headed northeast past Las Vegas and into Utah, the southwest corner of Utah. There, I video documented Joshua trees in two locations. On this aerial map, note the yellow boundary lines where Nevada, Utah, and Arizona all meet. The white curvy line is my rough sense visually of where I saw Joshua trees on this part of their farthest northeast range. Inside the red block is where I filmed. That resulted in this video, as it was in the vicinity of the Beaver Dam Mountains. A 3D aerial map shows the route along a dirt road where I filmed, with the orange star marking the farthest northeast and upslope where I found any Joshua trees at all. Now, the turquoise star marks the fourth and final location where I filmed in April 2017, to the northeast, up against those brilliant red cliffs. Now, how could I have actually filmed Joshua trees there against those beautiful red cliffs if that's beyond the northeasternmost range of Joshua tree? How is that possible? I could film there because I was recording baseline data of human-planted Joshua trees planted there for landscaping purposes several decades ago. "932 Chavano Drive in the Kayenta subdivision near St. George, Utah, in the very southwestern portion of Utah. Here at the beginning of the driveway are two Joshua trees that were planted about 20 years ago, soon after the Spinelli couple moved in here. And what Ron Spinelli told me, was that when he initially harvested these trees from the wild by the Beaver Dam Mountains, they were maybe 2.5, 3 feet high and transplanted very easily. And so after 20 years, this is how tall the main stem has grown on each of these. But what I find very, very useful and remarkable here is that because of the landscaping and the knowledge of the history here, you can see how well a single Joshua tree vegetatively reproduces. All of these side areas here, you see them coming out of the basal area. And even some root suckering that goes up right to the right of that cholla. See, there's one coming up there. Tremendous vegetative reproduction, looking very, very healthy. Here's the other one here, and I might just point out that what they were told, they got permits to collect them off of BLM land back then, 20 years ago. And they were simply told, keep track which side is north facing and make sure you plant it north facing again. So what you see on the left there is north facing, and it looks like it puts out most of its branches towards the south. Let's go take a closer look at this one. So this one, when it was planted, when it was dug up, didn't need much of a root ball and planted just fine. Was about the height of this rock, maybe a little less. That would put it about 2.5 feet tall. And you can see in 20 years, this is what it's grown. But what's more interesting, these two out here obviously took off quite a while ago from root suckers. They're out far enough from the roots, it sort of branches out. And you can also see, continuing more here, look at the number right there. 1, 2, 3 I can see. And then back a little bit there. There's another one in the center. And then if I kind of come over here a little bit, look at those two coming up right from within the rocks. Really healthy looking. Here's another small one coming out right here. And this is the bifurcating kind, which is the native kind in this part. There's two subvarieties. I think this one, they're both Yucca brevifolia, but I think this one has the shorter needles on it. Yes, the dark green populations of Joshua tree on the map are the short-leaf variety. We only saw the long-leaf variety in the first episode of this 4-part baseline data series, and that was at Palmdale, just north of Los Angeles. I just came out here because look at the root stretching from somewhere under here, somewhere over here, is putting out another start. So even if the main stem topples, and even if no seeding is going on, you can see how they can very easily maintain themselves over the long term, simply by the extraordinary way they reproduce vegetatively. Let's go take a look at some others that he transplanted later. So that's the Joshua tree that we were just looking at. Earlier, that one there. And I'm just looking over here because our host told us that they also cut up some of the, dug out some of the sprouts from those, and they've been planting them elsewhere. So you can see here, it looks like this is one they planted, but look at that one's already sprung off, even at that early age, a little sprout to come out from under the rock. I'm not sure about that one in terms of right in the center of the picture, but you can see obviously they didn't plant that. So this is sending up a couple root sprouts as well. So here are some other transplants. He says it's very easy to do and doesn't recall that he ever actually watered them when he first put them in around here. Though there's two out here that obviously look like they're dying. He's also got some yuccas along here, a couple different kinds. These yuccas here right in front have already produced seeds, and it's very easy to tell a yucca is distinct. You can see it's got some sort of thread-like stuff here. Also, you can bend it. It's thinner. You can bend it. They're very sharp, but you can't bend a Joshua tree. It's leaf. It's just too thick. And here you can see this one would have been the tall yucca's, probably the Shigelia here. And again, this bends. This one's got kind of serrated edges, but it's sort of purple tips rather than black tips. And again, coming over here, you You can see the black tips, and try not to poke myself here. They just will not bend. They are absolute daggers. So back to the Joshua trees at the head of the driveway here. Oh, quail. There are other Joshua trees as we just take a walk in this direction. So let's go find them again. They've all been, oh, here, I see one right from here. Yeah, okay, so here's his, and here's the other one. They've all been planted as landscaping, but you can see they're reproducing vegetatively. They're not old enough to put out seeds yet. But again, this is inadvertent, heading poleward of what landscapers are doing for truly native plants. So why is it important to film the landscape plantings of Joshua tree and not just the wild populations? Well, Kayenta is not far from the northeasternmost population of Joshua tree. And so therefore, it's an extension of its range, and we can see already, thanks to the landscapers, that it's doing very well in today's climate. And that's an important indication that it's not too soon to begin assisted migration. Now, assisted migration is a new term that's come up, and I've been an advocate of it for about 12, almost 15 years for an endangered species of conifer that I work with back in the eastern United States, Terre taxifolia. But given the ongoing nature of climate change and how the solutions just aren't materializing for putting an end to it, we do have to get underway with moving long-lived, slow-to-mature trees northward, well north of their current range. That's what assisted migration is. Now, in several of the other videos in this series, I've shown you a map. It looks like this. And you can see the colors there of Joshua tree range, current, where it's going to be extending its range into the future, and then where it's going to be retracting in range. The red is the contracting area. The green is where new areas are going to open up for it under some of the climate scenarios for this next century. Well, as it turns out, every place that I've filmed in this series, including the northeasternmost part of the series here, the Kayenta part in southwestern Utah and Beaver Dam area in southwestern Utah, they're all going to be contracting in range there. With climate change, it won't even be suitable anymore for Joshua tree. And so that's a really significant finding of the climate modelers who are working with the physiology of Joshua tree. In 2015, Wild Earth Guardians petitioned the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service that administers the Endangered Species Act, petitioned them to declare Joshua tree as an endangered species, endangered by climate change. And that would then get a push underway to A, stop climate change, and B, consider the kind of adaptation options that I'm talking about here, assisted migration. Within that petition, they included a very frightening range map of ultimately not just in the area nearby in Utah, but actually as far north as Washington State and Idaho, of where range could open up for Joshua Tree by the end of this century, given expected possibilities of climate change. So that's why it's important to study baseline data, not just of wild populations of Joshua Tree, and a lot of people are concerned about Joshua Tree as kind of being the poster plant for climate change in the western United States. But that's why we also need to study the landscaping already underway and get the oral histories, finding out from people, did they water them? How much difficulty have the plants had? And certainly, as we can see in the Kayenta subdivision, that every young plant you see there, nearby an older one, is a sprout from a root. None of them have flowered there yet in the subdivision, so there is no seed dispersal going on. It's a great way to learn about how we can help Joshua Tree without having to start new scientific studies. If you'd like to learn more about assisted migration and the advocacy work I've been doing, take a look at my Climate, Trees, and Legacy video series on YouTube. The first episode is an introduction, and it tells a lot about the work I've done with Torreya guardians, Torreya taxifolia back east. The second episode is on Torrey pine in California, and the third on Joshua Tree. Here's some of the next ones that I filmed as well. Again, just Google Climate, Trees, and Legacy, and you'll be able to find that video series. May the forest be with you.